Have you ever stood in a place where the air itself feels heavy with the dust of another continent? Every year, the Bruma Seca winds carry millions of tons of fine, desiccated sand from the Sahara Desert across the Atlantic Ocean. This thick haze swallows the sun and blankets the 10 isolated volcanic islands of Cape Verde. Visibility drops to a mere few meters. The moisture is sucked from the air, leaving the land parched and gasping for relief. Yet, if you look closely through this dense veil of golden dust, you will see a flicker of movement. You will see the faint orange glow of a small fire cutting through the morning gloom. Welcome to Cape Verde. I am here to guide you through a profound journey with Core Travel. Together, we will witness how life refuses to surrender in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. This is a place where you can touch cooling lava flows in the morning and wander across vast, blinding white salt deserts by the afternoon. Before the sun even crests the jagged peaks, a rhythmic scratching breaks the silence. It is the sound of a stiff broom sweeping dry leaves across the coarse, porous surface of basalt rock. An elderly woman steps out of her home. Her face is deeply lined, carrying the map of decades spent under a merciless sun. She gathers a handful of dry twigs, carefully hoarded and protected from the persistent trade winds. With a single strike, a small flame comes to life. She places a heavy, soot-stained iron pot over the fire. Inside, water is a precious commodity, measured drop by drop. She prepares a slow-cooked stew, throwing in a handful of hard corn and dried beans. This fire will burn low and steady for the next 4 hours. It is a daily ritual that requires absolute patience. Patience is not just a virtue here. It is the fundamental currency of survival. We begin our deep exploration on the island of Fogo. The name itself translates directly to fire. We are ascending towards the Chã das Caldeiras. This is a massive volcanic caldera that sits at an elevation of nearly 2,000 meters. At the center of this crater looms the imposing cone of Pico do Fogo. It is an active volcano that still rumbles beneath the earth. You might wonder why anyone would choose to build a life inside the belly of a sleeping giant. The answer lies beneath their feet. The air up here is distinctly colder, carrying a sharp metallic scent of sulfur. There are no roosters crowing to announce the dawn. The only sound is the cold wind howling down the steep, blackened slopes of the caldera walls. The local inhabitants awaken inside their traditional dwellings, known as funko. These homes are architectural marvels of necessity. They are circular, conical structures built entirely from raw, unmortared lava rocks. The stones are carefully stacked by hand, interlocking perfectly to keep the fierce winds out while maintaining a stable temperature inside. There is no cement, no modern insulation. Just the earth shaping a shield against the earth. A farmer emerges from his funko, wrapping a thick woolen scarf tightly around his neck. He carries a heavy iron hoe over his shoulder. He walks out into the morning fog, his boots crunching loudly against the ground. But he is not walking on soil. He is walking on a thick, black layer of lapilli. These are coarse fragments of volcanic ash and pumice left behind by violent eruptions. To an outsider, this looks like a barren lunar landscape devoid of any organic life. But the farmer knows the secret of the black ash. He does not plow the land in the traditional sense. Instead, he carefully scrapes away the top layer of lapilli. Beneath the dry surface, the porous volcanic rocks have trapped the rare, microscopic droplets of night dew. This hidden moisture is just enough to sustain life. We leave the central islands behind and venture northwest across a turbulent stretch of the Atlantic. The ferry pitches and rolls violently against the relentless ocean swells. Our destination is Santo Antao. It is the second largest island of the archipelago, yet it feels like an entirely different planet. From a distance, it appears as an impenetrable fortress of vertical rock rising abruptly from the dark blue water. This is an island defined by extreme topographical violence. Centuries of volcanic activity and deep water erosion have carved a landscape of jagged peaks and impossibly deep canyons. We drive through the coastal town of Ribeira Grande, nestled at the bottom of a massive ravine where two dry riverbeds meet. But we must go much higher. We navigate a terrifying, single-lane road carved directly into the face of a sheer rock cliff. There are no metal guardrails here. Looking down from the passenger window, the ocean crashes violently against the black rocks hundreds of meters below. Suddenly, around a sharp, blind bend, the village of Fontainhas reveals itself. It is a breathtaking sight that forces you into complete silence. A cluster of small, brightly painted houses clings desperately to a narrow, crumbling ridge overlooking a terrifying abyss. The exterior walls are painted in pastel pinks, pale greens, and striking ocean blues. These vibrant colors stand out sharply against the dark basalt mountains and the verdant agricultural terraces. National Geographic once named this one of the villages with the best views in the world. But for the local inhabitants, the spectacular view is strictly secondary to the daily mechanics of survival. We follow a local farmer as he sets out for his fields in the pale early morning light. He walks along the Caminos Vecinais. These are ancient, incredibly narrow cobblestone paths built entirely by hand over the centuries. They zigzag precariously up and down the steep valley walls, barely wide enough for two grown men to pass each other. He is accompanied by a small, sturdy, gray donkey. The rhythmic click-clack of the donkey's hooves against the uneven stones echoes loudly through the silent, misty canyon. This resilient, unassuming animal is the absolute lifeline of the high mountain villages. It carries heavy sacks of cement, large plastic water jugs, and freshly harvested crops up gradients that would destroy a modern off-road vehicle. We leave the dizzying heights of Fontainhas and descend into the deep, humid, cloud-covered embrace of the Paul Valley and Ribeira da Torre. The visual contrast to the rest of the arid archipelago is deeply shocking. Here, the barren volcanic rock gives way to an explosion of dense, tropical green foliage. But this is not a wild, unmanaged jungle. It is a highly engineered, meticulously maintained agricultural masterpiece. Every single square meter of arable land has been painstakingly transformed into terraced fields, supported by heavy stone retaining walls. To survive the long, punishing dry seasons, the farmers have built complex gravity-fed irrigation channels, known locally as levadas. These narrow stone and concrete trenches capture the tiny, vital streams of runoff from the high mountain peaks. They distribute the precious water, drop by drop, to the thirsty crops below. Nothing is ever wasted here. Water rights are strictly regulated and fiercely protected by the community elders. We stand beside a small, incredibly steep plot of towering sugarcane. Nearby, an ancient wooden structure groans loudly under immense heavy pressure. This is a trapiche, a traditional artisanal sugarcane press. A massive muscular ox walks slowly in a tight, unending circle, pulling the heavy wooden arm that turns the massive iron grinding gears. A man covered in dust and sweat feeds thick, tough stalks of green sugarcane directly into the crushing rollers. His hands are rough, deeply calloused, and stained brown from the sweet, sticky plant juice. The opaque liquid pours continuously into a large, weathered wooden barrel. This raw juice will be fermented for days and then slowly distilled over a wood fire into grog. Grog is the potent, unaged local rum. It is a fiery, raw spirit that fuels the hard-working people through the freezing nights in the high mountains. It is a drink born of intense, back-breaking labor and consumed with deep, quiet respect. From the high green valleys, we travel rapidly down to the dramatic coastline of Ponta do Sol and the striking Ribeira das Pratas beach. The sand here is pitch black, pulverized from ancient lava flows meeting the cold, churning ocean. The brilliant white foam of the Atlantic waves crashes violently against the dark shore, creating a mesmerizing, high-contrast visual spectacle. Local fishermen stand at the very edge of the razor-sharp rocks, casting simple handlines directly into the dangerous surf. They watch the water with intense, unwavering focus. They read the treacherous underwater currents with eyes trained by decades of silent observation. When the sun begins to wane, we take a short, choppy boat ride across the narrow sea channel to the neighboring island of São Vicente. The atmosphere and the pace of life shift immediately upon our arrival. We walk into Mindelo City, the undisputed cultural and musical capital of Cape Verde. The architecture here bears the heavy, faded influence of the Portuguese colonial era. There are elegant, arched doorways, wrought iron balconies, and wide, cobbled avenues sweeping around the deep natural harbor. We walk along the pristine white sands of Lajinha Beach as the sun begins to set. The golden hour light casts long, soft shadows across the pale sand and the turquoise water. People are swimming, jogging, and gathering in relaxed small groups. It is a stark, jarring contrast to the solitary, grueling labor of the mountain farmers we left behind just hours ago. But the true, beating soul of Mindelo does not awaken until the sky turns a deep, bruised purple. The strong trade winds sweep through the narrow residential alleys, finally cooling the sun-baked stone buildings. In the dim yellow light of a quiet street corner, an elderly man sits alone on a small wooden stool. He holds a battered classical guitar, its pale wood polished smooth and shiny by years of constant use. He closes his eyes, takes a slow breath, and begins to play. The rhythm is incredibly slow, deliberate, and deeply melancholic. He is accompanied by a younger man playing the cavaquinho, a small four-stringed instrument that adds a sharp, rhythmic texture to the melody. They are playing a Morna. This is the traditional, soul-stirring music of Cape Verde, a genre made famous worldwide by the legendary barefoot diva, Cesaria Evora. The singer's voice is gravelly, fragile, and full of a quiet, dignified sorrow. He sings of saudade. It is a complex, heavy word with no direct translation in the English language. It means a profound longing, a bittersweet nostalgia for a person, a place or a time that is permanently gone. It is the absolute emotional anchor of a people who have spent centuries watching their loved ones emigrate across the brutal ocean to escape poverty and drought. The men gathering around the musicians listen in absolute, reverent silence. They are tough dock workers, weary fishermen, and manual laborers. Their faces are deeply etched with exhaustion and the harshness of the sea. But as the acoustic music swells, a deep, undeniable sense of peace washes over their hardened features. In this isolated, wind-battered corner of the Atlantic, where nature demands so much and gives so little in return, music is not just casual entertainment. It is the ultimate survival tool. It is a spiritual mechanism to process the immense harshness of their reality and transform it into something extraordinarily beautiful. The slow, deliberate plucking of the guitar strings blends perfectly with the distant, rhythmic sound of the dark ocean waves hitting the concrete harbor walls. We leave the melancholic melodies of Mindelo behind and take to the sky. Looking down from the small propeller plane, the jagged, green-veined mountains of the western islands abruptly vanish. They are replaced by the vast, unbroken blue of the Atlantic Ocean. Eventually, a flat, golden-brown disk emerges from the water. This is the island of Sal. The name translates simply to salt. Stepping off the plane, the physical impact of the environment is immediate and absolute. There are no towering peaks to catch the rain clouds here. There are no deep, shaded valleys to hide from the sun. Sal is a completely flat, arid desert floating in the middle of the sea. The dry heat hits your skin like a physical blow. The relentless trade winds carry the constant, gritty sting of fine sand from the Sahara. We drive along a perfectly straight asphalt road that shimmers with mirages in the midday heat. Our destination lies on the eastern coast, hidden inside the remains of an ancient geological event. We arrive at Pedra de Lume. From the outside, it looks like a barren, rocky hill. But as we walk through a dark, narrow tunnel carved directly into the volcanic rock, the earth suddenly opens up. We step out into a massive, dormant volcanic crater. The floor of this caldera sits 39 meters below sea level. It is a surreal, almost alien landscape of blinding white and vivid magenta. Seawater naturally seeps into this depression through deep underground fissures. Under the merciless African sun, the water evaporates rapidly, leaving behind vast, geometric pools of highly concentrated brine. The colors of the pools shift dramatically from pale pink to deep ruby red, depending on the specific stage of evaporation and the presence of microscopic algae. Towering over these colorful geometric squares are the ghostly remnants of a 19th century industrial empire. Massive wooden pylons and rusting iron cables stretch across the crater sky. They are the decaying skeletons of an old aerial tramway that once transported thousands of tons of salt over the crater walls to the waiting ships. Today, the massive industrial operation has ceased, but the ancient practice of artisanal salt harvesting continues. We observe a small group of local laborers walking slowly across the thick, crunchy crust of the salt flats. Their working conditions are incredibly severe. They are wrapped from head to toe in faded, heavy clothing to protect their skin from the intense ultraviolet radiation. Thick scarves are wrapped tightly around their faces, leaving only narrow slits for their dark, protective sunglasses. The glare from the pure white salt is bright enough to cause permanent damage to the naked eye. They use long, heavy wooden rakes to carefully scrape the crystallized salt from the bottom of the shallow, hypersaline pools. The sound is a constant, rhythmic grating of wood against hard mineral. Every movement is slow, measured, and highly calculated to prevent exhaustion in the suffocating heat. The water here is 27 times saltier than the open ocean. If a worker has even the smallest microscopic scratch on their skin, the concentrated brine burns like liquid fire. They shovel the heavy, wet white crystals into small wooden wheelbarrows. They push the heavy loads up narrow, slippery embankments, stacking the salt into perfectly conical, blindingly white pyramids to dry in the wind. During a brief moment of rest, a worker unwraps a plastic water bottle that was carefully bundled in a thick, damp cloth. This simple evaporative cooling method is the only way to keep their drinking water from turning boiling hot. They drink in long, silent gulps, staring out over the vast pink mirror of the crater. It is a scene of profound, quiet endurance. They are extracting wealth from a landscape that appears entirely hostile to human life. Leaving the quiet intensity of the crater, we travel to the southwestern edge of the island. We arrive at Ponte Preta. Here, the island meets the raw, unfiltered power of the Atlantic Ocean. There is no protective reef to break the incoming swells. The deep water suddenly hits the shallow volcanic shelf, creating massive, heavy waves that crash violently onto the shore. The wind howls continuously, whipping the white foam into the air and scattering dry sand across the dunes. Local fishermen stand safely back from the edge, watching the violent surf with deep respect. They sit on overturned wooden buckets, using thick bone needles and tough nylon thread to meticulously repair their massive fishing nets. Their hands are heavily calloused, rough as the volcanic rocks they walk upon. They know that these waters are incredibly dangerous, yet they rely on them entirely for their livelihood. The stark, barren reality of Sal makes its modern developments feel even more surreal. Just a few miles south of the wild waves of Ponta Preta lies the town of Santa Maria. This area boasts some of the pristine, powdery white sand beaches in the entire archipelago. The ocean here transforms into a striking, vivid turquoise gradient. We walk past the imposing structure of the Hotel Riu Palace Cabo Verde. It is a massive, meticulously engineered oasis of modern luxury, sitting directly on the edge of the harsh desert. Inside its walls, automated sprinklers run daily to maintain lush green lawns and decorative palm trees. Expansive pools of fresh water shimmer in the sunlight. It is a jarring, fascinating paradox. On one side of the island, men toil in a scorching crater to harvest salt by hand. On the other side, tourists relax in an artificial paradise, completely insulated from the island's true, arid nature. Both realities exist simultaneously, bound together by the same relentless wind and sun. We cross the narrow sea channel to the neighboring island of Boa Vista, seeking the quiet capital of Sal Rei. The landscape here is an extension of Sal's desert, but with an even more pronounced sense of isolation. Massive, shifting sand dunes roll directly into the ocean. The town of Sal Rei sits quietly around a natural harbor. The buildings are painted in faded pastels, their walls constantly sandblasted by the wind. The cobblestone streets are permanently dusted with a fine layer of golden Saharan sand. Down by the harbor, women gather around sturdy, weathered wooden tables. They use heavy iron cleavers to expertly slice massive, freshly caught yellowfin tuna. The metallic smell of fish and the sharp scent of ocean brine fill the hot air. Small, colorful wooden fishing boats bob gently in the calm, protected water of the bay. The pace of life here is noticeably slower, dictated entirely by the unbearable midday heat and the shifting tides. Further north, we visit a stretch of coast reminiscent of the rugged Tarrafal beaches, where the sand is dark and heavy. The rusting hull of a massive cargo ship sits marooned just offshore, slowly being devoured by the salty waves and time. It serves as a stark, silent reminder of nature's ultimate authority over human engineering. Whether it is the salt miners in the crater, the fishermen on the dangerous rocks, or the local vendors in the sandy streets, the people here share a profound resilience. They do not try to conquer the desert or tame the ocean. They have simply mastered the art of existing beautifully within its absolute limits. We return to the largest island, Santiago. This time, we do not seek the silent, mist-covered peaks. Instead, we plunge into the chaotic, vibrant, and relentless heartbeat of the entire archipelago. Welcome to Praia. It is the capital city, a bustling metropolis perched precariously on a flat volcanic plateau known locally